Nostalgia by Caroline Duffy. This is a really strange poem. You'd expect from the first line, those early mercenaries, that perhaps the poem would be named The Mercenaries, but actually they're almost there by accident, it seems. And the nostalgia is recreated through sound as much as it is by events. And I'm going to read the poem out loud in a way that you might find incredibly annoying, but I want to emphasise what's going on with the sounds here. Those early mercenaries, it made them ill, leaving the mountains, leaving the high fine air, to go down, down. What they got was money, dull crude coins, clenched in the teeth, strange food, the wrong taste, stones in the belly, and the wrong sounds, the wrong smells, the wrong light, every breath wrong. They had an ache here, doctor, they pined, wept, grown men, it was killing them. And so I've over-exaggerated it, but to draw out the sounds, the hard C's, the D's, the kind of aggressive sound, the K in killing at the end of that verse, there's a finality to it, but also a rhythm that drives you on, and the repetition of wrong, wrong, wrong really emphasises the point. So in the first verse it seems a huge mistake to leave the high mountains, and in the second verse there is a complete change of mood, a change of tone, a change of music, and the sounds are quite musical. It was given a name, hearing tell of it, there were those who stayed put, fearful of a sweet pain in the heart, of how it hurt in that heavier air to hear the music of home, the sad pipes summoning in the dwindling light of the plains, a particular place where maybe you met a girl or searched for a yellow ball in long grass, found it just as your mother called you in. It's a verse full of assonance, isn't it? The E sound in hearing, the R sound in sad, A sound in plains. These get repeated throughout the verse and they're soft. The alliterative S's are determinedly soft. The W's, it's a soft, soft sound to the poem, almost wistful, longing for a past that is never possible to reclaim. You can never be called back in. And then, in the third verse, there's another change. It's much more hostile until the final two lines. But the word was out, some would never fall in love had they not heard of love. So the priest stood at the stile with his head in his hands, crying at the workings of memory through the colour of leaves, and the school teacher opened a book to the scent of her youth. Too late. It was spring when one returned with his life in a sack on his back to find the same street with the same sign on the inn, the same bell chiming the hour on the clock, and everything changed. And so I hope you'll find that in that reading of that verse there's a sense of hope, a sense of possibility at the end, that the change isn't something to be dreaded, it's something hopeful, a future that's just arriving, rather than a past that has been ruined. So the sounds in the first verse let us know exactly how unwell these mercenaries are. They're ill, and this is echoed in the last line with ill in killing, and these I sounds, it, made them ill. It was killing them. They're harsh. They've got a final sort of sound to it. You have to pause on them. And that's also echoed with the repetition of words beginning with D. Down, down, clenched. And this is echoed down here as well with doctor. And then the harsh C's throughout. So we've got the D of dull, and then crude, and the alliterative coins, clenched. And it's very unusual for Duffy to have three words with alliteration altogether. It's overdone, but deliberately to create this harsh percussive sound. And this kind of percussive rhythm is emphasised again in the final two lines with the K of ache, and the cut of killing and the harsh T of wept and it and doctor. Really harsh. The sound is all important here. Well, what about the actual images? There's an immediate contrast between high, where they've left, the moral high ground if you like, which is fine, and immediately contrasted to down, down, and the sound changes to emphasize that. Money is crude, and look what it does to the people. They clench in the teeth like animals chewing on a bone. Strange food. Irony that the coins are put in the mouth. You've all seen it in films to test the validity of the gold, to see if it's real. And suddenly the money becomes food. It takes food's place. But obviously this is wrong. It creates the wrong metallic taste. And it also leads to a sense of poverty. Stones in the belly. We imagine adulterated food. You come down and the bread isn't made of pure flour anymore, but it's adulterated with chalk or perhaps sand. And it's also a metaphor for what's wrong. You've become heavier, the opposite of light that you were in high in the fine air. And that's built on with this pun here. The wrong light, daylight, but also weight. Every breath is wrong, as though actually you'd be better off dead. And death is exactly what seems to happen to them in the final two lines. And it's not a death brought on by other people, but by their own actions, by being mercenaries, doing something that they shouldn't do for money. They pined and they wept, and grown men have become less than men, and that's what's killing them. In the second verse, interestingly, there's a shift of perspective. It was given a name, and the name, of course, is nostalgia, the name in the title. But it's not something that we should aspire to. Looking back is actually making them ill. And what does it do? Hearing tell of it, there were those who stayed put. And there's an element of contempt in that phrase, isn't it? They're fearful. It's an attack on those who did not become mercenaries. Whereas in the first verse we thought Duffy was attacking these mercenaries for leaving a home that they loved, actually she's much more interested in this desire to explore. The sweet pain in the heart is almost like an addiction, isn't it? Of how it hurt in that heavier air. And there's an element of reality being more real once they leave home. The air is heavier, it's more tangible. The music of home is something you can only hear once you've left. The sad pipes summoning you aren't pipes being played actually at home, but they're being played here, somewhere else, and that reminds you of home. So in this verse there's a sense of opening out. You're actually better off having left. The world that they've left behind is therefore small. The yellow ball symbolises that. If you like, the sun has been shrunk to it. The long grass is a biblical reference perhaps, and the idea that to mow down grass is death. And they were closer to death actually in the home that they've just left. They were closer to their mothers, but the mother called you in, restricted you, narrowed your life and your life's choices. And so although the sound of this verse is much more musical, it's a kind of Pied Piper music, luring you to something you should actually escape. And although the verse sounds much better, it's done ironically. Nostalgia is something you should avoid. And this gives us a completely different perspective in the third verse. Here, the word was out, and suddenly this acts as a command. Not just that the word has escaped and everybody knows about nostalgia, but Duffy is saying, get out. That's what you've got to do. Look what's happened to the people who have stayed behind. Some would never fall in love had they not heard of love. And so love is just an idea. They live in a narrow world, meeting few people, and their love is like a pretense. But if you leave and meet lots of people, the person you fall in love with is a real lover, a real object of love, somebody worthy of your love. Look at what happens to the priest. The priest just stands. Where does he stand? At the stile with the head in his hands. Listen to the sound of that. It's miserable. It's not a religion that you'd want to join. And he's crying, what about? At the workings of memory through the colour of leaves. And these we can imagine are the leaves of trees, but also the leaves of his prayer book, the leaves of the Bible. This is something that we should take pity on, not aspire to. And the same with the school teacher who opened a book and smells the scent of her youth, a youth that has been wasted, waiting where she is, and now it's too late. And we could also look at the priest and the school teacher as emblems of culture, or those who shape society's values. These people are seen as sad, as miserable. They're rejected by Duffy in the poem. So now in the final 4 lines, the returning mercenary brings incredible hope. It was spring, an emblem of new birth, and just the sound of the word changes the rhythm of the verse. His life in a sack on his back, and these percussive C's and K's, these harsh sounds, no longer seem threatening here. They're moving us towards this idea that everything has changed, just as the percussive K and K has changed to a CH. The sound shows us the journey that this mercenary has been on, but also he can change everything. The whole society he's left behind can be changed by his return, because he has changed and brought that change with him. And this change is chiming. It's wholesome, and it's got a musical sound that was lost in the first verse, came deceptively in the second verse, but it was the wrong music. Now it's the right music. And so the last verse echoes some of the techniques of the first. Do you remember the repetition of wrong, 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 which is echoed in groan? But here in the last verse is much more gentle. The same street with the same sign. Notice the alliteration, the soothing softness of the sibilants and the S's. The same bell chiming. And so we've got an image of completeness, but a completeness that's only possible through change. It's an image of growth, and it's growth away from nostalgia. We should not live in the past, but seek to change it by exploring our future.